The great hall of Talfheim Station floated in the darkness of space, its crystal walls reflecting the light of 1,000 stars. Inside, representatives from across the galaxy gathered in fear. Queen Lysara of the Valth Empire sat upon her throne, her skin shimmering like living diamond. She had ruled for 300 years and had never seen her council so afraid. 17 civilizations, spoke Commander Thrace, his voice heavy. Gone in 3 months. The Devourers leave nothing behind, no survivors, no ruins, just empty worlds. The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew what this meant. The Devourers were unlike any enemy they had faced before. They were a swarm, a living wave of teeth and claws that moved with one mind. They consumed everything in their path, people, buildings, even the ground itself. "What of our warriors?" Queen Lysara asked, though she already knew the answer. "The Krill Berserkers lasted 4 days on Helion Prime," Thrace said quietly. "The Ashton Psionic Knights fell in too. Even the Forge-born machines were torn apart in hours. They learn from every battle. They adapt. They cannot be stopped." A ripple of fear moved through the council. The Krill were 9 feet tall and could tear through steel with their bare hands. The Ashton could move objects with their minds and see the future. The Forge-born were ancient war machines built by a civilization long dead. If they had all failed, what hope remained? An old counselor named Vestrin stood up slowly. He was small and gray, from a species that most others ignored. "There is a legend," he said carefully. "A rumor from the outer systems." "We don't have time for stories," another counselor snapped. But Queen Lysara raised her hand for silence. "Speak, Vestrin." "There is a world called Earth," Vestrin continued. "A minor planet. Its people are weak by our standards. No natural armor, no telepathy, no special abilities. But their myths speak of something they call the Champion. A warrior who has never lost, who cannot be defeated." Laughter filled the chamber. Humans were barely noticed in the galactic community. They had joined the Council only 50 years ago and were still considered primitive. Their technology was outdated. Their bodies were fragile. The idea that they could have a warrior greater than the Krill or Ashton seemed absurd. "Myths are just stories," Commander Thrace said. "The Devourers are real. They will reach the core worlds in weeks. We need solutions, not fairy tales." But Queen Lysara did not laugh. She had learned long ago that legends often carried truth, hidden beneath layers of exaggeration. She had also learned that the greatest mistakes came from pride, from assuming that her people knew everything worth knowing. "Send a delegation to Earth," she ordered. "If this champion exists, we must find them." Her advisors protested loudly. It was a waste of time. The Devourers were coming. They needed to prepare defenses, not chase rumors about primitive aliens. But Lysara would not be moved. Something in her ancient heart told her this was important. 3 days later, a Valth ship entered Earth's solar system. The planet was blue and green, covered in water and life. It looked peaceful, untouched by the horrors spreading across the galaxy. The delegation was led by Corvus, the Queen's personal guard. He stood 8 feet tall, with muscles like stone and skin that could turn away most weapons. He had won tournaments on 50 worlds and had killed a Devourer scout with his bare hands. They landed in a place called Sol, one of Earth's major cities. Millions of humans moved through its streets, tiny and soft compared to most galactic species. Corvus felt his irritation growing. This was a fool's errand. They were met by a human male named Jinwoo. He was small and quiet, wearing simple clothes. He greeted them with a bow and a smile. When Corvus demanded to see the champion, Jinwoo's smile widened. "You'll want to meet Hana," he said simply. Jinwoo led them away from the city into mountains covered with green forests. They traveled for an hour before reaching a simple building made of wood. It sat alone on the mountainside, surrounded by silence. A wooden sign near the entrance showed symbols in the human language. "This is a dojo," Jinwoo explained. "A training hall. Hana lives here with her teacher." Corvus felt his anger rising. They had come across the galaxy for this? A wooden building in the wilderness? But he followed Jinwoo inside, the other delegation members trailing behind. The interior was bare and clean, wooden floors, white walls, nothing more. In the center of the main room stood a human female, moving through a series of precise movements. She wore loose white clothing and moved barefoot. She appeared to be in her late 20s, of average height for a human, with dark hair tied back. "This is Hana," Jinwoo said quietly. The delegation stared. This was the legendary champion? This small, unarmed human practicing alone in an empty room? She didn't even acknowledge their presence, continuing her movements with perfect focus. Corvus had seen enough. "This is an insult," he growled. "The Queen sent us to find a warrior, and you show us this? She looks like she would break in a strong wind." Hana finally stopped moving. She turned to face them, her expression calm and neutral. Her eyes were dark and deep, showing no fear of the massive alien warriors before her. "You doubt me," she said in perfect galactic standard language. Her voice was quiet but clear. "That is expected. Would you like a demonstration?" "I challenge you," Corvus said immediately. "Single combat. If you are truly this champion, prove it. Defeat me." The other delegation members shifted uncomfortably. Corvus was the Queen's finest warrior. He had trained for a century. This human looked like she had barely lived 3 decades. It would be a massacre. But Hana simply bowed respectfully. "I accept your challenge." They moved to a larger training area outside. The delegation formed a circle, giving them space. Corvus removed his armor and weapons. He would fight with bare hands. It would be more fair that way, though he doubted it would matter. Jinwoo stood at the edge, his expression unreadable. He had seen this before. "Begin when ready," Hana said calmly. Corvus charged. He was fast for his size, covering the distance in 2 powerful strides. He swung his fist, a blow that could shatter stone, but his fist hit only air. Hana had moved, so quickly that he hadn't seen it. She was now beside him. Before he could react, pain exploded through his arm. She had struck a pressure point with surgical precision. His arm went numb. He spun, using his other fist, but again, she wasn't there. Another strike, this time to his leg. He stumbled. Panic crept in. Corvus had fought thousands of battles. He had never felt so helpless. Hana moved like water, flowing around his attacks. Every time he struck, she was somewhere else. Every time she struck him, it was exactly where it would hurt most. 7 seconds after the fight began, Corvus found himself on the ground, both arms disabled, his legs swept from under him. Hana stood above him, not even breathing hard. She hadn't broken a sweat. The delegation stood in shocked silence, their greatest warrior defeated in seconds by an unarmed human female. It was impossible. It defied everything they knew about combat, about physics, about reality itself. Queen Lysara's voice came through the communicator one of the delegates carried. She had been watching through their cameras. When she spoke, her voice was filled with awe and wonder. "So it's true," she whispered. "The human champion exists." Corvus sat on the ground, staring at his hands in disbelief. Feeling slowly returned to his arms and legs. Hana had struck him with perfect control, disabling him without causing permanent harm. That level of precision was something he had never encountered. The delegation helped him to his feet. No one spoke. They were all trying to process what they had just witnessed. A human, the weakest species in the known galaxy by physical standards, had defeated their strongest warrior in 7 seconds. "How?" Corvus finally asked. His pride was wounded, but his curiosity was stronger. "I have trained for 100 years. I have studied combat on 50 worlds. How did you move like that?" Hana bowed respectfully to him. "You are skilled," she said, "but you fight like everyone else in the galaxy. You rely on strength, speed, and endurance. You follow patterns that have been used for thousands of years." She gestured for them to follow her back inside the dojo. The delegation entered quietly, their earlier arrogance gone. Hana knelt on the floor in the traditional human way, and the others sat as best they could. "Humans are weak," Hana continued. "We have always been the smallest, the slowest, the most fragile. In Earth's ancient past, we could not outrun predators or fight them with claws and teeth. We survived by being smarter, by adapting, by learning to use what we had in ways others did not expect." A man entered the room, elderly and moving slowly. He was dressed in simple black clothing, his white hair tied back. Despite his age, he moved with quiet dignity. This was Taejin, Hana's teacher. "Master," Hana said, bowing deeply to him. Taejin nodded and sat down. His eyes, though old, were sharp and clear. "You wish to understand our Hana," he said to the delegation. "Then you must understand what makes a human champion." He gestured to Hana. "She began training when she was 5 years old. Every single day for 20 years, she has practiced. No breaks, no rest days. She holds the highest rank in 14 different martial arts. She has studied the warfare and combat methods of every human culture throughout our history." Another human entered. This was Do-yun, a man in his 30s with the bearing of a soldier. His eyes constantly scanned the room, assessing threats out of habit. "I served in Earth's special forces," he said. "I have trained with the best warriors our world has produced. Hana is beyond all of them." A young woman came in next, carrying a data pad. This was Minji, wearing the uniform of Earth's military. "We have been studying Hana for years," she explained. "She has a unique condition. Her brain processes information differently than other humans. Her reaction time is 3 times faster than normal. Her spatial awareness allows her to track multiple targets simultaneously. She can assess threats and calculate responses faster than our computers." "But that is not all," said a third human, Yuna, who worked as a scientist. She was younger, with kind eyes. "Hana has what we call perfect kinesthetic memory. If she sees a technique once, she can replicate it exactly. She has studied videos of combat from across the galaxy. She knows how krill fight, how Ashten move, how every major species approaches battle." Corvus felt his mind reeling. This was not just a skilled fighter. This was someone who had dedicated their entire existence to the art of combat, someone who had turned their natural disadvantages into advantages through pure discipline and will. "Show them," Taejin said quietly. Hana stood and moved to the center of the room. For the next 30 minutes, she demonstrated techniques. She showed them krill power strikes, Ashten fluid movements, forge-born precision attacks. She showed them ancient human styles, some flowing like water, others explosive like thunder. She moved between them seamlessly, each technique perfect. Then she showed them something new. She combined techniques from different species, creating hybrid attacks that had never existed before. A krill power strike, delivered with Ashten timing. A human spinning kick, enhanced with forge-born mathematical precision. The delegation watched in silence. They were seeing the future of combat unfold before their eyes. Hana was not just a master of existing techniques, she was creating new ones, finding combinations that others had never imagined. When she finished, Jinwoo spoke to the delegation. "Queen Lysara sent you here because you face an enemy you cannot defeat. The Devourers destroy everything through overwhelming force and adaptation. You need someone who can adapt faster, someone who can find weaknesses others cannot see. Someone who fights in ways the Devourers have never encountered. He paused, then continued. Hana is that someone. But we need to know. Why should she risk her life for worlds she has never seen? For people who dismissed humans as primitive and weak? It was a fair question. The delegation looked at each other uncomfortably. It was true that the galactic community had ignored Earth. Humans had been treated as second-class citizens, their ideas dismissed, their contributions overlooked. One of the delegates activated a communication device. Queen Lysara's holographic image appeared in the room. The Queen looked directly at Hana. "I will not lie to you with false flattery," Lysara said. "My people have been arrogant. We believed our age and power made us superior. We were wrong. I am asking you now, as one leader to another, please help us. Billions will die if the Devourers are not stopped. Children, families, entire civilizations. We have no one else to turn to." Hana looked at Tai Jin. The old master studied his student for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "This is what I have trained you for," he said. "Not to prove that humans are strong, but to protect those who need protection. Go, show them what you can do." Hana bowed to her teacher, then turned to Queen Lysara's image. "I will help you," she said. "But I do not fight alone. I will need my team." "Agreed," Lysara said immediately. "Whatever you need." "I will go," Doyen said, stepping forward. "Hana will need tactical support." "I will analyze the Devourers," Yuna added. "Find their biological weaknesses." "I will handle technology and equipment," said Hyun, a quiet man who had been standing in the corner. He was their technical specialist. Minji nodded. "Earth's military supports this mission. I will coordinate with your forces and provide strategic analysis." Jinwoo smiled. "And I will make sure our government understands what is happening. You will have Earth's full backing." Queen Lysara's image showed relief and gratitude. "Thank you, all of you. Ships are already being prepared. We will transport you to the front lines immediately." But Taejin raised his hand. "One more thing," the old master said. "You must understand that Hana is not like your soldiers. She does not follow orders blindly. She will do what is necessary to win, even if it goes against your plans. You must trust her judgment." Lysara hesitated, then nodded. "I understand. She will have complete operational freedom." The delegation prepared to leave. As they walked toward their ship, Corvus approached Hana. "I am sorry," he said quietly. "I underestimated you. It will not happen again." Hana smiled for the first time. "You were protecting your queen. There is no shame in that. I hope we can fight together, not against each other." Corvus nodded respectfully. "I would be honored." As the delegation left, Hana stood alone in the dojo with Taejin. The old master placed his hand on her shoulder. "Remember everything I taught you," he said. "Trust your training. Trust yourself. And come home safe." "Yes, master," Hana said. That night she meditated under the stars, preparing her mind for what was to come. Somewhere in the darkness of space, the Devourers were spreading. Worlds were dying. People were screaming. But they did not know that something new was coming. Something they had never faced before. A human who had spent her entire life learning to overcome impossible odds. The champion was coming to war. And she had never known defeat. The Valth warship cut through space, carrying Hana and her team toward the outer colonies. Through the viewport, she could see stars stretching into infinity. Somewhere out there, the Devourers were consuming world after world. Doyen sat beside her, reviewing tactical data on a screen. "The mining colony of Shalteth is next in their path," he said. "Population of 50,000. They are evacuating, but they will not finish in time. The Devourers will arrive in 6 hours." Hana studied the information carefully. The Devourers were unlike any enemy she had researched. They did not use weapons or technology. They were the weapon, a living swarm that moved as one. Each creature was roughly the size of a large dog, with multiple legs and razor-sharp teeth. Individually, they were dangerous. Together, numbering in the millions, they were unstoppable. They share one mind, Yuna explained, bringing up biological scans. Like insects in a hive. When one learns something, they all learn it. That is why they adapt so quickly. Every battle teaches them new tricks. Hyun was checking Hana's equipment. She wore light armor designed for maximum mobility. Her weapons were simple, a plasma blade that could cut through almost anything, and a rifle that could adjust its frequency to damage different types of targets. Nothing heavy, nothing that would slow her down. The alien generals are not happy, Minji said, reviewing communication logs. They think the Queen is making a mistake, sending one human instead of an army. They are planning to use standard defensive formations. That will not work, Hana said quietly. The Devourers have defeated those formations before. They will exploit the same weaknesses. When they arrived at Shalteth, the situation was chaos. Alien soldiers ran in every direction, setting up barriers and weapon emplacements. The colony was built into the side of a mountain, with tunnels running deep underground. Perfect defensive position for a normal enemy, but the Devourers could attack from any angle. General Vorn commanded the defense. He was a Krill, massive and battle-scarred. When he saw Hana, his expression darkened. "This is the Queen's great hope?" he said with disgust. "A small human? I have 5,000 warriors here. We will hold the line." Doyen stepped forward. "General, we have tactical suggestions." "I do not need suggestions from primitives," Vorn interrupted. "Stay out of the way. When the real fighting starts, you will only get in the way of real warriors." Hana said nothing. She had expected this. Words would not convince him. Only results mattered. The Devourers arrived as the sun set. First, there was a sound like distant thunder. Then the ground itself began to shake. On the horizon, a dark wave appeared, stretching from one end of the valley to the other. Millions of creatures, moving together, flowing like deadly water toward the colony. "Form defensive line!" General Vorn roared. His warriors took position, shoulder to shoulder, weapons ready. It was a classic military formation used across the galaxy for thousands of years. It was also exactly what the Devourers expected. The swarm hit the defensive line like a tsunami. The aliens fought bravely, cutting down hundreds, then thousands of creatures. But for every Devourer that fell, 10 more took its place. The line began to buckle. Warriors were dragged down, disappearing beneath the writhing mass of teeth and claws. "Fall back to secondary position," Vorn ordered, his voice strained. But the Devourers had already flanked them. They poured through gaps in the formation, attacking from sides and rear. The aliens were surrounded. Panic spread. The organized retreat became a chaotic scramble for survival. Hana watched from a high position, analyzing the battle. She saw what the aliens could not see, the pattern in the chaos. The Devourers were not mindless. They moved with purpose, with strategy. Small groups of creatures served as scouts, identifying weaknesses. Others served as coordinators, directing the swarm with chemical signals. "There," she said, pointing to a cluster of larger Devourers in the center of the swarm. "Those are the node creatures. They control the others." "How can you tell?" Yuna asked. "Watch their movement," Hana explained. "They do not fight. They stay protected while others do the killing. When they move, the swarm moves with them. They are the brain. Cut them off, and the swarm loses coordination." Doyen nodded. "A decapitation strike. But you would have to get through millions of Devourers to reach them." Hana checked her weapons. "Then I will go through them." Before anyone could object, she jumped from the high position, landing 40 feet below with a roll that absorbed the impact. She started running toward the swarm. "Is she insane?" Minji whispered. No, Doyen said, watching carefully. She knows exactly what she is doing. Watch. Hana hit the edge of the swarm at full speed. Devourers lunged at her from all sides. Her plasma blade sang through the air, each strike precise and economical. She did not waste movement. Every cut served a purpose. Every step took her closer to the node creatures. She moved through the swarm like a dancer through a crowd, seeing gaps that others could not see, finding paths between the gnashing teeth and slashing claws. When the Devourers tried to surround her, she used their own numbers against them, causing them to collide and tangle with each other. Her rifle barked, each shot finding a target. She fired at joints and weak points, crippling creatures with minimum ammunition. The plasma blade spun and cut, creating a sphere of death around her. Nothing could touch her. The alien warriors, still fighting desperately on the defensive line, stopped to stare. They had never seen anything like this. One small human cutting through an army that had destroyed civilizations. Hana reached the first node creature. It tried to escape, protected by dozens of guardians. She threw a small device, a flashbang designed by Hyun. Bright light and loud noise scattered the guardians. In the confusion, she struck. The plasma blade pierced the node creature's central mass. It collapsed, chemical signals dying. Immediately, a section of the swarm became disorganized. Thousands of devourers began moving erratically, attacking each other in confusion. Hana was already moving to the second node, then the third. Each time she struck, more of the swarm fell into chaos. The tide of battle began to shift. General Vorn saw what was happening. "All warriors advance," he ordered. "Support the human." The aliens rallied. With the swarm losing coordination, they could fight effectively again. They pushed forward, cutting down the confused devourers. The battle became a massacre, but this time, the devourers were the victims. Hana found the fourth and final node creature. This one was larger, smarter. It had learned from watching her kill the others. It kept its guardians close, in tight formation. They moved together, trying to trap her. She smiled. They were learning. Good. That meant they were predictable. She feinted left, and the guardians moved to block. She went right instead, sliding under their attacks, coming up inside their formation. The plasma blade found the node creature's core. It shrieked, a sound that echoed across the battlefield. With all four nodes destroyed, the swarm collapsed. The devourers scattered, losing all sense of purpose. The alien warriors cut them down easily. Within minutes, the battle was over. The valley floor was covered with dead devourers, tens of thousands of them, but the colony was saved. 47 minutes. That was all the time Hana had needed to turn a hopeless battle into a complete victory. She walked back through the carnage, her armor splattered with alien blood, her weapons still humming with power. The alien warriors parted before her, staring in awe and disbelief. General Vorn approached, his own armor dented and scarred. For a long moment, he just looked at her. Then, slowly, he removed his helmet and bowed. "I was wrong," he said. "Forgive my arrogance. You are truly a champion." Hana returned his bow. "You fought well. Your warriors are brave." "But we would be dead without you," Vorn said honestly. "You saw what we could not see. You fought in ways we never imagined. I have been a soldier for 80 years, and I learned more watching you fight for 47 minutes than I learned in all that time." Other warriors gathered around, wanting to understand what they had witnessed. Hana spent the next hour teaching them. She explained about the node creatures, about finding patterns in chaos, about using an enemy's strength against them. "The devourers are strong," she said, "but they are also predictable. They rely on numbers and adaptation. They expect you to fight the way you have always fought, so you must change, be unpredictable, be creative, think like a human." A young Valth officer stood at the edge of the group. Her name was Somin, and she was actually human, adopted by a Valth family years ago. She had joined their military to prove herself. Now she watched Hana with wide eyes. "Can you teach me?" Soman asked quietly. "I want to learn to fight like you." Hana studied the young woman. She saw potential there and determination. "Yes," she said, "I will teach you." Over the next 3 weeks, Hana led operations across 7 different worlds. Each battle followed the same pattern: alien commanders using traditional tactics, failing, and then Hana stepping in to turn defeat into victory. She taught them human strategies, guerrilla warfare, misdirection, psychological attacks. She showed them how to study their enemy and find weaknesses. Word spread across the galaxy. The human champion was real, and she was winning battles that should have been impossible. Morale improved. Hope returned. But Yuna noticed something troubling in her research. "The Devourers are adapting," she told Hana one night. "They are learning from their defeats. The node creatures are becoming harder to find. The swarm is developing new tactics." Hana nodded. She had expected this. "They will keep learning until they find a way to beat us. We need to find their source. Where are they coming from?" The answer came 3 days later. Intelligence reports confirmed the worst possible news. The swarm mother was emerging. The central intelligence that controlled all Devourers was preparing to enter their dimension. If it fully manifested, nothing would stop it. The war was about to reach its final stage. The emergency council meeting happened on Queen Lesara's flagship, the largest ship in the Voth fleet. Representatives from every major species gathered, their faces showing fear barely held in check. Hana stood among them, still wearing her combat armor from the last battle. "The swarm mother is coming," announced Commander Thrace. A holographic display showed a massive tear in space, located in the Alara system. Strange energies poured from it, distorting reality itself. "Our scientists estimate it will fully emerge in 72 hours. When it does, our dimension will belong to the Devourers." The room erupted in panicked conversation. The swarm mother was not just another enemy. It was the source of all Devourers, a creature of such immense power that it existed partially outside normal reality. Ancient records spoke of it destroying entire galaxies before being forced back into its own dimension by civilizations long extinct. "How big is it?" General Vorn asked, his voice tight. "Our scans cannot measure it accurately," Thrace replied. "But based on the size of the dimensional breach, we estimate it is larger than a small moon. It generates Devourers constantly. If it fully enters our space, it will produce billions of them every day." Silence fell. The math was simple and terrible. No amount of conventional firepower could stop something that large. No army could fight billions of enemies. "There is one chance," Yuna spoke up. She had been studying the breach constantly. "The swarm mother is vulnerable during its emergence. Right now, it is between dimensions. Its physical form is not fully solid. If we can strike its core before it completes the transition, we might be able to kill it." "Might?" Queen Lesara asked. "The core is protected by thousands of guardian organisms," Yuna continued. "Each one is as dangerous as a Devourer node creature. The dimensional breach also warps space and time. Anyone entering it will experience reality distortions. It will be like fighting in a nightmare." Commander Thrace pulled up tactical projections. "We would need a strike team to enter the breach, fight through the Guardians, and somehow reach the core. The team would have maybe 30 minutes before the swarm mother fully emerges and crushes them. The survival chance is effectively 0. Hana stepped forward. "I will go." Every eye in the room turned to her. Queen Lesara stood up from her throne. "Absolutely not. You are our greatest asset. If we lose you, we lose all hope of stopping the Devourers after the swarm mother emerges." "If the swarm mother emerges, there will be no after," Hana said calmly. "It must be stopped now, and I am the only one who can do it." You cannot be serious, Vorn protested. Even you cannot fight thousands of guardians alone. I have studied all the combat data, Hana explained. I have watched how the guardians move, how they protect the swarm mother. I can see patterns that others cannot. I know where the weaknesses are. Doyen moved to stand beside her. If Hana goes, I go. Someone needs to plan the insertion and extraction. I will prepare specialized equipment, Hyun added, weapons designed specifically for the Guardians and the breach environment. I will provide medical support and biological data, Yuna said. Minji nodded. Earth's government has authorized full support. Whatever Hana needs, she gets. Somin stepped forward hesitantly. Please let me come too. I have learned from you. I can help. Hana looked at the young woman. 3 weeks of intense training had transformed Somin. She moved differently now, fought differently. She was not at Hana's level, but she was far better than she had been. You understand the risk? Hana asked. I understand, Somin said. I would rather die fighting beside you than live knowing I could have helped, but was too afraid. Hana nodded. Then you will come. General Vorn spoke up. My best warriors volunteer. We have fought beside the champion. We trust her. Where she goes, we follow. Other commanders echoed the sentiment. Within an hour, a strike team of 20 had been assembled. All were veterans. All had fought the Devourers before. They knew what they were facing, and they chose to go anyway. Queen Lisara looked at them all. These warriors from different worlds, different species, united by a single purpose. And leading them was a human who had shown them what courage truly meant. I cannot order you to do this, Lisara said quietly, but I can thank you, all of you. You carry the hopes of billions. She turned to Hana specifically. When this started, I thought humans were primitive, weak. I was arrogant and foolish. You have shown me that strength comes not from physical power, but from discipline, intelligence, and an unbreakable spirit. Whatever happens, know that I was honored to fight alongside your people. Hana bowed respectfully. We will stop the swarm mother. I promise you. The next 2 days were spent in preparation. Hyun designed weapons that could function inside the dimensional breach. Yuna identified the most likely location of the swarm mother's core. Doyen planned entry and exit routes. Backup plans for the backup plans. Hana trained with the strike team, teaching them techniques for fighting in confined spaces and unstable environments. She showed them how to move as a unit, how to protect each other, how to stay calm when reality itself was falling apart around them. On the night before the mission, Hana sat alone in her quarters. A communication came through from Earth. Taijin's face appeared on the screen, the old master looking smaller and more fragile across the vast distance. My student, he said gently, I have been watching your battles. You have surpassed even my highest expectations. I learned from the best teacher, Hana replied. Tomorrow will be your greatest test, Taijin continued. You will face something beyond anything we trained for. I cannot guide you through this. You must trust yourself completely. I am afraid, Master, Hana admitted. It was the first time she had said it aloud. Not of death, but of failure. So many people depend on me. Fear is natural, Taijin said. It means you understand the stakes. But remember what I taught you. A true warrior does not fight for victory. They fight for what they must protect. Let that be your guide. He paused, then smiled. You have always been my greatest student, not because you were the strongest or the fastest, but because you never gave up. No matter how hard the training, no matter how many times you fell, you always stood up again. That spirit cannot be defeated. Thank you, Master, Hana said, tears in her eyes, for everything. Come home safe, Taijin said. I still have much to teach you. The communication ended. Hana meditated for hours, clearing her mind, preparing her spirit. She reviewed every technique she knew, every strategy, every lesson learned. When dawn came, she was ready. The strike team assembled in the hangar bay. 20 warriors, the finest the galaxy could offer. They wore specialized armor and carried weapons designed for the impossible. They stood together, ready to face nightmares. Soman approached Hana nervously. "I have never been so scared," she admitted. "Good," Hana said. "Fear will keep you sharp. Trust your training. Stay close to me. We will get through this." General Vorn addressed the team. "Some of you are Krill, some are Valth, some are human, some are from species I had never heard of before this war. But today we are all brothers and sisters in battle. We fight together. We die together if we must. But we will not surrender." The warriors raised their weapons in salute. Their battle cry echoed through the hangar, a sound of defiance and courage. The transport ship carried them toward the dimensional breach. Through the viewports, they could see it growing larger. The tear in space pulsed with sickly light, colors that should not exist bleeding into reality. Strange shapes moved within it, things that hurt to look at. 2 minutes to insertion, the pilot announced. Hana checked her equipment one final time. Plasma blade, charged and ready. Rifle loaded with specialized rounds. Armor sealed and functioning. She looked at her team. They were afraid, but they were ready. "Remember," she said, "we move fast. We do not stop. Every second we waste is a second closer to the Swarm Mother's full emergence. Find the core, kill it. Get out, clear?" "Clear!" they shouted back. The transport approached the breach. Reality began to warp around them. The ship's instruments went crazy. Gravity fluctuated. Time seemed to slow and speed up randomly. 30 seconds, the pilot said, his voice strained. Hana stood at the rear door, her team behind her. She thought of Taijin, of Earth, of all the people depending on her. She thought of every person she had met in this war, every warrior who had fought beside her, every child who would die if she failed. The door opened. Beyond it was chaos, a swirling void of impossible geometry and living darkness. The Swarm Mother's realm, a place where the laws of physics broke down. Hana jumped into the void, her team following. The greatest battle of her life was about to begin. The dimensional breach was like falling through a nightmare. Hana tumbled through impossible space, where up was down and distance had no meaning. Colors that hurt to see swirled around her. Sounds that should not exist echoed from nowhere and everywhere. She forced her mind to focus. Her training had prepared her for disorientation. She had spent years learning to fight blind, deaf, even upside down. This was worse. But the principle was the same. Trust your body. Trust your instincts. The strike team materialized around her as gravity suddenly reasserted itself. They landed hard on a surface that looked like bone but felt like metal. The sky above was a churning mass of darkness. In the distance, mountains of flesh rose and fell like breathing. "Stay together," Hana commanded. "Do not look at anything too long. The environment will try to confuse you." Guardians emerged from the walls, the floor, the air itself. They were massive things, combinations of devourer and something worse. Their bodies constantly shifted, growing new limbs, new weapons, new horrors. The battle began. Hana moved through the Guardians like a storm. Her plasma blade cut through their shifting forms, finding the stable cores that anchored them to reality. Her rifle barked, each shot precisely placed. Behind her, the strike team fought desperately, using everything she had taught them. Soman stayed close to Hana's side, watching and learning. When a Guardian lunged at Hana's blind spot, Soman intercepted it, her blade cutting through its leg. Hana finished it with a strike to its core. "Good!" Hana shouted over the chaos. "Keep moving!" They pushed forward, cutting through layers of Guardians. But for every one they killed, 2 more appeared. The Swarm Mother was creating them faster than they could be destroyed. General Vorn fought like a demon, his massive strength breaking Guardians apart. But even he was tiring. A Guardian's claw caught him across the chest, tearing through his armor. He stumbled, and 3 more Guardians swarmed him. 2 warriors rushed to help him. They killed the Guardians but were surrounded themselves. Hana watched in horror as they were dragged down, their screams cutting off abruptly. "Keep moving," she ordered, though it tore at her heart. They could not stop, not even to save their own. The team pushed deeper into the breach. Time was meaningless here, but Hana's internal clock told her they had been fighting for 15 minutes. 15 minutes closer to the Swarm Mother's full emergence. 15 minutes closer to ultimate failure if they did not hurry. Half the strike team was gone now, dead or lost in the dimensional chaos. The survivors were wounded, exhausted, running on pure determination. Then they saw it. The Swarm Mother's core rose before them like a mountain made of nightmares. It pulsed with terrible life, surrounded by thousands of Guardians. Tendrils of darkness reached from it, anchoring it to reality. With each pulse, the dimensional breach grew more stable. It was almost ready to fully emerge. "There!" Yuna shouted, pointing to a section of the core. "That is the primary mass. Destroy that and the whole creature dies." But the Guardians formed a solid wall around it, impenetrable, impossible to break through. Doyen grabbed Hana's arm. "We need a new plan. We cannot fight through all of them." Hana studied the situation. Her mind raced, analyzing options, calculating probabilities. Every path led to failure. Every strategy ended in death. They were too few, too tired, too late. Then she saw it, the pattern, the weakness. The Guardians were all focused outward, defending against attacks from outside, but they assumed any threat would come from their dimension. They had never considered something else. "I need to get inside the defensive sphere," Hana said. "That is suicide," Vorn protested. "Maybe," Hana agreed. "But it is our only chance. If I can reach the core from inside, the Guardians cannot stop me without damaging the core themselves." "How will you get inside?" Somin asked. Hana looked up. Above the core, the dimensional breach was thinner, less stable. "I will jump from above. The distorted gravity will slow my fall enough to survive. I hope." "And if it does not?" Doyen asked. "Then you retreat and tell them I tried," Hana said simply. Before anyone could argue, she was running. She sprinted toward a rising pillar of flesh, using her momentum to run up its side. At the top, she jumped, using every bit of her strength to launch herself upward. For a moment, she hung in the air, suspended in the distorted physics of the breach. The Swarm Mother's core was below her, massive and terrible. The Guardians had not noticed her yet. Then she fell. Gravity grabbed her, pulling her down, but the dimensional warping made it strange, uneven. She spun in the air, orienting herself. The Guardians saw her now, reaching up with clawed limbs, but she was falling too fast. She hit the surface of the core hard, her armor absorbing most of the impact. Pain shot through her body, but nothing was broken. She was inside the defensive sphere. The Guardians turned inward, confusion in their movements. They had never dealt with a threat from inside. The Swarm Mother itself seemed to notice her, and suddenly Hana felt immense pressure on her mind. Images flooded her consciousness, visions of Earth burning, her friends dying, Taijin crying. The Swarm Mother was trying to break her will, to make her give up. But Hana's mind had been forged through 20 years of meditation and discipline. She had learned to control her thoughts, to separate reality from illusion. She pushed back against the mental assault. "You picked the wrong species to intimidate," she whispered. Her plasma blade activated. She drove it into the core's surface. The Swarm Mother screamed, a sound that echoed across dimensions. The core shuddered, trying to throw her off. She held on, driving the blade deeper. Around her, Guardians clawed at the core, trying to reach her. but they could not attack without damaging the very thing they were meant to protect. The Swarm Mother tried again to crush her mind. This time, it showed her something different. It showed her that she was just one person. One tiny, fragile human against a creature that had existed for millions of years. What made her think she could win? For a moment, doubt crept in. Hana was tired, wounded, alone. Her team was dying. Her strength was fading. Maybe the Swarm Mother was right. Maybe this was impossible. Then she remembered Taijin's words. A true warrior does not fight for victory. They fight for what they must protect. She was not fighting to prove humans were strong. She was not fighting for glory or recognition. She was fighting for all the children who would die if she failed, for all the families who would be torn apart, for every being in the galaxy who deserved to live. That was worth fighting for. That was worth dying for. With a scream of defiance, Hana poured everything she had into one final attack. She pulled a device from her belt, an experimental weapon Hayan had created. A focused antimatter charge, small but incredibly destructive. She activated it and drove it deep into the core alongside her plasma blade. "For Earth!" she shouted. "For everyone!" The explosion was small in physical size but massive in dimensional impact. The Swarm Mother's core ruptured. The creature's scream shook reality itself. The dimensional breach began collapsing. Hana was thrown backward by the blast. She tumbled through the air as the world fell apart around her. Guardians dissolved into nothing. The flesh mountains crumbled. The nightmare realm was dying. Strong hands caught her. Soman had somehow reached her, grabbing her before she fell into the void. Together, they ran toward the collapsing exit. The rest of the team followed. What remained of them? Behind them, the Swarm Mother thrashed in its death throes. The dimensional breach was sealing, forcing the dying creature back into its own realm. In its rage and pain, it reached out with one final tendril trying to drag them back. The tendril wrapped around Hana's leg. Soman grabbed her arms, refusing to let go. The rest of the team grabbed Soman. They formed a human chain, fighting against the Swarm Mother's pull. Hana looked back at the creature. Even dying, it was terrible and beautiful, a force of nature beyond understanding. "You lose," she said quietly. The tendril weakened as the Swarm Mother's strength failed. The breach sealed completely, cutting it off. The team tumbled out into normal space, landing in the transport ship that Doyun had somehow piloted into perfect position. They lay on the floor, gasping, bleeding, but alive. Of the 20 who had entered, only 8 emerged. But they had won. The Swarm Mother was dead. The devourers across the galaxy suddenly went dormant, their controlling intelligence gone. Within days, they would all die, reduced to mindless creatures easily eliminated. The war was over. News spread across the galaxy within hours. The impossible had been achieved. The devourers were defeated, and it was all thanks to one small human who refused to give up. 2 weeks later, Queen Lysara held a ceremony aboard her flagship. Representatives from every world gathered to honor the heroes. Hana stood before them, her arm in a sling, her body still healing from the battle. "Hana of Earth," Lysara announced formally, "you are named Defender of the Realm, the highest honor in Valth history. Never before has this been given to someone not of our people, but never before has someone done what you have done." The crowd erupted in cheers, but Hana raised her hand for silence. "I accept this honor," she said, "not for myself, but for all humans. For too long, you have seen us as weak, as primitive. We are neither. We are different. We solve problems in ways you never considered. We adapt where others fail. I ask only this: treat Earth as equals. Let us learn from each other." Lysara stepped down from her throne and bowed, something no Valth queen had done in 1,000 years. "It will be so," she promised. "From this day forward, Earth is recognized as a core member of the Galactic Council. Your people will train our warriors. Your strategies will guide our military. We have much to learn from you." After the ceremony, Hana stood alone on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. Doyen joined her quietly. "You are famous now," he said. "The whole galaxy knows your name." "I do not care about fame," Hana replied. "I just want to go home." Taijin sent a message. "He is waiting for you." Hana smiled for the first time in weeks. "Then let us not keep him waiting." The ship that carried her back to Earth was met with celebration. Millions of humans gathered to see their champion return. But Hana slipped away from the crowds, traveling alone to the mountains. Taijin waited in the dojo, exactly as she had left him. He looked older, more tired. When he saw her, his eyes filled with tears. "Master," Hana said, bowing deeply, "I have returned." "Welcome home, my student," Taijin replied. They stood in silence for a long moment. Then the old master smiled. "Tell me everything. I want to hear every detail." They sat together in the dojo as Hana told her story. When she finished, Taijin nodded thoughtfully. "You have done well," he said. "Better than I ever imagined. But remember, this is not the end of your journey. It is just the beginning." "What do you mean?" Hana asked. "The galaxy knows now that humans can be warriors, teachers, champions. Others will come seeking your knowledge. Will you teach them?" Hana thought about Somin, about General Vorn, about all the warriors who had learned from her. "Yes," she said. "I will teach anyone who wants to learn." "Good," Taijin said. "Then your real work begins now." Over the following months, warriors from across the galaxy came to Earth. The dojo in the mountains became a place of pilgrimage. Hana taught them all, sharing the knowledge that had made her a champion. Not just fighting techniques, but philosophy, discipline, and the power of never giving up. Somin became her first true student, eventually opening her own school on the Valth homeworld. General Vorn reformed his military's training based on human principles. Across the galaxy, the legend grew. But for Hana, the greatest reward was simple. Every evening, she practiced alone in the dojo, just as she had before the war. The movements were the same. The discipline was the same. She was still learning, still growing, still pushing herself to be better. Because that was what it meant to be human. Not to be the strongest or the fastest, but to never stop trying. To face impossible odds and find a way. To protect those who needed protection. The human champion existed. Her name was Hana, and her story had only just begun.